So imagine coming home to find your neighbor just, well, waiting for you. And they hand you a note and say, hey, the police were just here looking for you about an open investigation.
Oh, that is instant panic, just complete dread.
Right. Panic just sets in.
Yeah.
So you march down to the station to ask what is going on, but they refuse to tell you. Like they completely stonewall you because you aren't officially in trouble yet.
Yeah, which is pretty wild to think about.
It really is. It's like finding an ominous missed delivery note on your door from the police. But when you go to the station to ask about it, they refuse to tell you what's actually in the box.
Because technically, I mean, you're not a suspect on paper yet.
Exactly. So today, we are doing a deep dive into a landmark June 2025 legal thesis from the Mexican Supreme Court. Specifically, it's Registro 2030556.
Yeah, and our mission here is to explore the exact moment a seemingly routine police visit legally transforms into a full-blown constitutional right, like the right to access your confidential criminal investigation files.
Which is such a fascinating pivot in how we view the law. Because we usually assume constitutional rights are activated by, I don't know, dramatic physical events.
Right, like an arrest or handcuffs or being dragged into a courtroom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this ruling focuses on something way quieter. It's about how a simple whispered message left with a neighbor can fundamentally shift the balance of power between you and the state.
It really does. And, well, the facts of this case are just so incredibly mundane.
They really are.
I mean, police officers go to a person's house looking for them regarding an open criminal investigation. The person obviously isn't home, so the police just leave a message with a neighbor, like, just tell them we stopped by.
And naturally, the person finds out, panics, goes to the prosecutor's office, and demands to see the file.
Right, and the prosecutor just shuts the door in their face. Under the National Code of Criminal Procedures you are not legally entitled to see the file unless you're officially detained, summoned to testify, or subjected to a formal act of annoyance.
Act of annoyance. Which just sounds like a convenient technicality meant to protect the investigation, right? I mean, if prosecutors have to open a file every time a suspect gets spooked by a cop car on their street, people might just destroy evidence.
Or completely flee the country. Exactly. The prosecutor's argument is heavily rooted in investigative integrity. From their viewpoint, until they issue a formal document targeting you, you are legally untouched.
So denying access is just standard operating procedure to keep the case airtight.
Exactly. But it leaves the person in this agonizing limbo.
Yeah, it's like a poker player accidentally slashing their cards to the whole table and then getting furious when the other players demand to know what hand they're holding. So, because the prosecutor refused to show their cards, the citizen filed an amparo.
Right. And for you listening, an amparo is this unique Mexican constitutional mechanism designed to basically hit pause on potential government overreach. It forces a federal judge to step in and review human rights violations.
But this amparo almost didn't survive at all, did it?
No, it didn't. The initial district judge actually threw it out. They basically agreed with the prosecutor that without a formal summons, the citizen didn't even have the legal standing to complain.
Wow. So how did the Supreme Court justify stepping in and overturning that logic?
Well, an appeals court revoked that initial dismissal, which escalated it up to the Supreme Court's first chamber. And they did something really remarkable here. They looked at the actual psychological reality of the situation.
Wait, so they didn't just look at the paperwork?
No, they ruled that seeking someone at their home or workplace and leaving messages with neighbors doesn't just pass along information, it actually creates a state of deep, looming anxiety.
So the Supreme Court is actively quantifying an emotional state.
Yes. They specifically use the word zozobra, which translates to this profound sense of psychological anguish or uncertainty. The court recognized that the sheer weight of this zozobra constitutes a legal act of annoyance.
An acto de molestia.
Exactly. It becomes a tangible violation of personal privacy and human dignity. I mean, it is incredibly rare for the law to treat a subjective emotional state like anxiety as a hard constitutional trigger.
But wait, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Shouldn't the police be allowed to just canvass a neighborhood or, ask questions to locate someone without being forced to hand over their entire confidential case file?
You would definitely think so.
Because it seems like this ruling could totally paralyze basic police work.
It sounds like it, but the court noted a massive irony here. The entire reason the prosecutor wanted to keep the file sealed was to maintain investigative secrecy.
Right, to protect the case.
But by deploying agents who basically gossip with neighbors and leave a trail of breadcrumbs, the authorities actually compromised their own investigative secrecy.
Oh, wow. So they essentially blew their own cover by being sloppy.
Precisely. Because the authorities caused that zozobra by being indiscreet, they triggered a legal exception. The psychological weight of that anxiety is now considered a heavier burden than the state's need for secrecy.
That is wild.
Yeah, therefore, the authority must immediately grant the citizen unrestricted access to the files so they can prepare an adequate defense.
So, under this 2025 ruling, the mere act of authorities looking for you at home or work and just leaving a trace of that visit immediately triggers your right to see exactly what they have on you.
Yes, just to protect your psychological well-being.
That is incredible. The burden shifts entirely back to the state,
It completely redefines the boundaries of a criminal investigation.
which leaves you with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up our deep dive today.
Go for it.
If simply leaving a message with a neighbor officially breaches investigative secrecy and grants the target full access to the case files, how flawlessly must authorities execute their duties before a simple misstep completely unseals their most confidential investigations?